people think that this is just going to happen naturally, that slipping into these roles is going to happen naturally. But I've talked to friends who are kind of going through that right now, and their kids like totally leaving their grasp, and maybe it's not coming so naturally. Hey everybody, it's Mesha. Today we are going to talk about kids and how we prepare them to leave our house. I'm going to talk to you about something that my dad did. I feel like it was really, really cool. He had this uncanny knack. Like people who knew him, they had a nickname. Like people who knew him well and were friends with him, they for sure had a nickname. That was just kind of one of the things that he had a knack for, just calling people something that was very affectionate, like a term of endearment. But one thing that he called me while I was a teen and while I was going through a lot of really, really hard stuff, one thing that he called me, not as a nickname, but more of as a title, he called me an emancipated adult. Long story short, I got pregnant as a teen. I was married, and my dad had a lot of wisdom in referring to me as my legal term. Okay, I was an emancipated minor, but he referred to me as an emancipated adult. The term emancipation means that you accept most adult responsibilities before becoming an adult, before the age of 18. Emancipated minors are no longer considered under the control of their parents. Okay, so he would refer to me as this emancipated adult, and he did it in a way that was so kind and loving, and it was a way for him to kind of keep reinstilling in me that almost that he had the faith in me that I could do that. Okay, so I got to talk to you about this because he did this in a very gingerly way. Okay, so first I want to start off and talk to you about the control V. Have you guys ever heard of the control V? I read it in a book somewhere and it just stuck with me forever. The control V is basically like this. When your kids are really little, you have tons of control over them. Okay, and so like they barely go down a slide without your help. Like you're there all the time. It's just control, control, control. And then as they start to grow older, they start to do more things on their own. They start to make their own decisions. They have to call home and tell mom, where they're at and what friends they're with. And just, kind of like those are the kind of control we start to let more and more go until, as they become older, they have almost no control. And then when they slip out of our grasp, it becomes natural. If we let that be a natural thing, that they start from being controlled to, slowly letting go of more control as they get older. So that's the control V. And I've thought about that and thought about the way that my dad did this, okay, because this emancipated adult thing was a big, big deal. One of the things that he did, it was an analogy that he drew for me because a lot of this middle part of the V, happened for me very quickly. It was like I went, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. You know what I mean? Because I was just like, I had made some crazy choices. But within that, my dad drew this analogy, and he said, Mish, you know what? When our kids are born and they're very little, we, start rolling the basketball to them back and forth, right? And we get to the point where maybe they want to start dribbling. And so they dribble, and we teach them how to dribble, and we, lift them up up to the basketball net or the basketball hoop, and they put their basketball in, and they made a basket, yay, and we cheer for them. And as they grow, those stages change. So then we become a player with them on the court, and we play with them side by side. And as we're playing side by side with them, we're their friend. They learn from us and we learn from them, and they see all of the plays that we make and they try to mimic them. Okay. And then as they grow and they go beyond that stage, we become their coach. Okay. So we're no longer playing side by side with them, but we're telling them how to see the game, and we're telling them, I don't really know basketball, but the analogy worked for me. As a coach, we're telling them what we see that they're doing that they could improve on. We show them what we see from our side of watching the game, and we coach them through that. Okay. And that's the role of the coach. And then somewhere in their high school years, we become their fan. Okay. and we move off the court completely, not just to the side of the court, but we move off the court and we're sitting in the stands, okay? And we are cheering for them and we're rooting for them, but we really do not have the right to walk down and tell the coach what to do, or to, yell from them on the sides and like take over the coach's position. We don't have the right to do that once we become the fan, okay? My dad taught me that once we get to that phase where he is in the stands, that, oh my goodness, wow. He taught me that he can no longer yell advice to me. He said, if you need advice, I'm right here, but you got to come off the court and ask me, because I don't have the right to go onto the court anymore. Man, it was such a cool analogy for where I was at, because it was a way for him to still be my parent. Gosh, can you imagine how much that would have ripped his heart out? He was still able to be my parent, but he let me know that I needed to need it, and I needed to ask for it, and I needed to seek his help. And I did. And because he opened this arena of conversation, it was such an easy transition in the way of like knowing my parents' roles and my role. And, that could get really confusing if you speed up that the middle of the control V. And I think it gets confusing for normal situations. I think that sometimes kids are like, hey, I'm a kid. And then all of a sudden I'm not a kid. I'm like, what do I do? You know what I mean? And that looks and manifests in different ways. So you guys, my dad had every right to be yelling advice to me because of my age. Okay, but because of the choices that I made, he so wisely set a pattern for the way that it needed to be, that it needed to go. And he drew the analogy for me so that I knew that he would be there, that I could go out and play on the court. And I was wise enough. Like when he referred to me as an emancipated adult, you guys, it was like him putting me on a pedestal. He would literally be like, Mish, you're an emancipated adult now. Like, what do you think? And he made me, I knew that my opinion mattered. And, but just most of all was just so important that he set this pattern that I knew that sometimes the wisest choice that I could make out on that basketball court is to ask my dad to meet me in the locker room so that I could ask his opinion and his advice on the choice that was right in front of me. It was his way of like wisely still being my parent, but allowing me to slip into the role of being an adult, even though I skipped this huge part of the control V, right? I went, boop, 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 boop. And he taught me instead of just going, phew, he taught me to be like right at those tips before I completely let go. So I think that teaching our kids this concept before they leave our grasp just sets this beautiful tone for a relationship and what it should look like. It allows them to see that as they grow, like the roles are going to change, but that's okay. It's a really good thing. We know that they're going to be deciding huge, big things on their own, and giving them the space to do that is what allows them to go into that adult role, right? But knowing that they have the space to and the wisdom to ask for advice to the people around them is like the best thing that we can teach them. Teaching them that we will be their fan, cheering for them, watching their choices, watching what's going on, yelling for them, and just being on their side, and that we can be summoned at any time. We can give it our advice at any time if they'll ask. Such a respectable way, such a respectable tone to set. I hope you guys like this tip. I hope you guys are a little bit inspired like I was when I really look back at my life and I'm trying to dissect some of the things that happened that helped me so much. And I find a lot of joy in sharing those things with you and hoping that they help you too. If you guys want more tips like that, they're coming, more are coming. Go ahead and subscribe below and I will keep bringing you things that will help you live happy and be inspired.